So this is a really, really lovely film by Rama Burstein, and it's made from, she has lived amongst the Orthodox Hasidic community in Tel Aviv, and it is made from within that community to some extent. Her previous work has been described as work for the Orthodox community, some of it for women-only audiences. Story is there's a young girl called Shira, a name which translates as song, incidentally, who is sort of, looking forward to, to the possibilities of life, and everything sort of seems well. And then on Purim, they have a tragedy strikes the family, and suddenly she finds what she thought of as being the future radically changed. The family is struck by grief and by loss, and it is possible that some of that can be assuaged if she essentially decides to put aside her own future and instead do what the family wanted to do. There's a way that she can hold the family together, which involves a certain amount of personal, self-abnegation. The film is really, really interesting. The writer-director, Rama Burstein, compares her. She says that one of her influences is Jane Austen. She's very, very interested in Jane Austen. She's interested in the way that Austen writes about characters within very strictly defined social circles, who appear to to move in an area which you might see as basically kind of restricting and restraining their outlooks, and yet they're the centre of the narrative. It's their emotions, it's their feelings, it's their personal journeys that are the centre of the story. And this is a film which does an absolutely brilliant job of portraying every single one of the characters, and particularly the female characters in it, as three-dimensional and as intriguing and interesting people who are operating within this this community, which is largely unseen in the outside world. The director says another interesting thing about what she wanted to do was she didn't want to make a film that was about the dialogue between the religious community and the secular community. She said, I just want to make a film that takes place within the Orthodox community, and those are the parameters of the story, and that's what it is. It's not about, how shall we somehow negotiate the divide between the religious and the secular. She talks about, I live in a community in which there are the religious and there are the secular. They live side by side, but they kind of get on with each other. They have a non-interventionist policy. And at the centre of it is this absolutely wonderful performance by Hadras Yaron, who won an award at the Venice Film Festival and for Best Actress, and is just terrific. And she does this incredible performance, which allows you to see through her character. Her character appears to be sort of caught in stasis to some extent by all the ritual, everything that's going on around her. And yet we see her growing, we see her developing, we see her making up her own mind within a very, very sort of strictly enforced and rigidly ritualized society. We also see all the people around her all having an intricate role to play in the way that her narrative plays out. And the film is, it's shot absolutely beautifully. It's filmed with great affection, clearly affection and love, and with an intimate knowledge of the world which it is portraying. And it's very, very moving. It's very, very, I know some people might look at it and go, well, you look at it as an outsider in a world in which, marriage is the thing that everyone is aiming toward. And it exists in a world which to some extent seems to be, slightly back in time. The ritual, for example, seems to be, place everything slightly, which again makes the Austen comparison ring rather more true. But I also think the film is more ambiguous and open-ended than perhaps some people would think. The way in which the narrative plays out, some people thought that it became quite trite in the third act, and I disagree entirely. I think it actually has a far more ambiguous ending, a far more ambiguous conclusion than some people are giving it credit for. And I thought it was really remarkable. It was tender, and it was engaging, and it was very, very well played, and it looked lovely. It is sort of filmed in this kind of slightly radiant, ethereal light, and all the way around it there are the faces of these central characters, and it's so much of the storytelling is done through the looks, through the gestures, through the ways, it's almost like I think about the way in which they stand in a room, the way in which they sit in a room. At the beginning, there's almost like a Godfather element to it, because it's everyone is coming around this big table and all these sort of matters are being dealt with. But it was very interesting to see a story that said, this is the world that this story takes place in. It exists within these parameters. These are the parameters of the story, and this is it. And within that, all human life is here. And I thought it was really rather remarkable.